preparation for the Bengals. Last Thursday, we came in after Christmas Day's game and met and analyzed not only that performance versus Kansas City, but really looked at some trends in most recent performances, and specifically some things that we have been talking about in this setting, things that have been building blocks for engineering victory for us, the turnover culture, our ability to safeguard the ball, our ability to get the ball, really in recent weeks has been compromised. And we looked at that and analyzed that in an effort to flip that trend. Certainly, we've done a nice job largely over the course of the season of taking care of the ball and on the other side of getting the ball. But I think our inability to do those things really kind of shape the most recent performances, particularly on Christmas Day, man. We turned that ball over going into the end zone. That's significant. We turned the ball over at the start of the second half on the short field, provided those guys a short field, and you just can't give offensive units and offensive players like Mahomes short fields. You can't take points off the board when you're in scoring position. Touchdown or field goal, and obviously with the ridiculous consistency of buys this year, when you're turning the ball over in the red zone, you're definitively taking points off the board. Coupled with that, because it's two sides to the coin, we haven't seized opportunities when the ball has been on the ground or tipped up in the air. Our punt team, I think for the second time in two, we gave up a pick six early in the game, but we created a defensive score later in the game to offset that, and we won essentially by one score. And so if you're not taking care of it, you certainly better get it. And ideally, which is what we've done over the large part of the season, you want to be able to take care of it and get it. From a health standpoint, man, it looks like we're moving in the right direction, which is a good thing. Last game, we had significant people coming back in Deshaun Elliott and George Pickens, to name a couple, Dante Jackson. This week, it looks like Joey Porter is scheduled to make it back along with Ben Skoranek. And so getting a healthy outfit, particularly as you get toward the end of this season and lean in on the single elimination tournament, is big business for us. We're excited about the issues of dividing the labor up and having really a full stable at our disposal in the effort to formulate plans and make plays. It's going to be needed, quite honestly, because Cincinnati is red hot. And so let's talk about them and talk about what they've done to kind of produce this four-game win streak that they're on. First of all, defensively, they're taking the ball away. I think they've got 11 turnovers since the last time we played them. I think that's number one in the NFL in that span. But not only taking the ball away, it's just winning where it's happening. They were playing Dallas. They were in a 7-7 football game. They had an interception in the red zone. They took 7 points off the board for Dallas, which was significant. Cleveland goes down the field on the first series of the game. They get a turnover in the one. 91 came through and took the ball away from the quarterback, and now to generate those opportunities, I think they've been really aggressive in terms of secondary blitzers. Mike Hilton in battle in particular. They bring them in all downs, first down, second down. They really discourage and cut up your run game with some of the negativity that they're able to create, with some of that pressure. You get behind the sticks. You're in a bad circumstances. With these guys, 91 leads the league in sacks with 14. And so if you get in a one-dimensional passing situation and you're behind the sticks, chances are he's got an opportunity to wreck things. And he's done that really consistently. I think he closed the Cleveland game out with a sack late in a one-dimensional moment, for example, since the last time we played him. And so those are some of the things that are going on defense that really have our attention. Really on the offensive side for the Bengals, man, it's more of the same. Joe is putting up MVP-like numbers. I think he's thrown 3 touchdowns, and he made some plays. We made some plays. We better make more if we want this game to unfold in the manner in which we desire. Certainly they're a motivated group trying to play their way into this tournament, but certainly we're a motivated group, to be quite honest with you. We got to get the stench of the last few performances off of us, and there's no better way to do that than a home divisional win versus a formidable group going into the tournament. And so that's our mentality as we stand here today. We had some real good meetings to get things kick-started this morning, and we will continue. Excited about doing it in Acrisure at prime time on Saturday night. Some injuries that I didn't mention, Corey Trice, might be limited at the early portions of the week, but expect him to be available. Same thing could be said for Jalen Warren and some other guys that are managing some bumps and bruises. But to come off of a long weekend like we have, man, that's been a benefit to us. Guys that have needed rest have gotten rest. Guys that have needed rehabilitation have gotten that. And so we're excited about starting our physical work tomorrow. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Mike, when you met last Thursday, did you address some of the kind of bickering that was going on among the defense about each other, and did you quell that kind of?
I didn't do much about it, man. They bicker because they care, and we weren't playing well. And oftentimes the solutions is born out of conflict and confrontation, particularly when you're in the business that we're in. And so we're not going to let an issue like that be a big issue. It's really not. Guys expressing truth and working to seek solutions, and sometimes emotions are involved in that. And so most of the time when you get out of those circumstances, you're able to move on as a collective, and I feel like we certainly have done that.
How did you treat, this was almost as big as your real bye week. It was 11 days, this was 10 days. Did you treat it as a bye week or in terms of its structure?
We certainly did. Meaning, as I mentioned, we gave the guys some time off. Those that had an opportunity to get some rehabilitation got it, and it gave us as a staff an opportunity to reflect on some schematics and how we're dividing the labor up to make sure that we're, extracting all the meat off the bone in those regards.
How do you assess the mentality or just the mental state of where your team is right now going into this last regular season game?
I feel really good about what I felt from them today. We were very transparent about what needs to be done and our course of action in an effort to create it. But again, I think we show mentality with our urgency and how we work, and so I'm excited about getting back on the grass tomorrow and starting the process. But some bright eyes, man, some rested faces. Felt real good about what we were able to get done in a classroom-like setting this morning.
Mike, what's your method of motivation and connecting with players when you go through a tough stretch as you've just gone through, knowing that the tournament is coming up?
Really, for me, it's no different. I'll utilize whatever tools at my disposal in an effort to get their attention. And more than anything, I'm really transparent. But I'm the same way under good circumstances. And I think that's important as a leader. There's a lot of emotions in this game, man. Those that get an opportunity to play it, my job as a leader is to be what they need me to be. And so from time to time, that could be a myriad of things. But largely, I motivate through information. I'm one that believes you give a capable man valuable information, he does the rest. And that's the spirit in which I coach.
Mike, Sean Elliott after the game talked about how there were mistakes that were happening in Week 17. They think those are Weeks 1 and 2 mistakes. And as far as coverage breakdowns and mistakes leaving guys open, when those things are happening at this late in the season, are personnel switches, changing how you use guys, something that you guys are considering right now, and what might some of those?
Oftentimes, those lapses that you mentioned are occurring because of personnel switches. Deshaun himself has missed a block of games in recent weeks. Dante Jackson has missed some time. Joey Porter's missed some time. And so what you've been looking at is some of those personnel changes that you suggest. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm excited about having all the guys at our disposal in preparation this week.
Mike, from an on-field standpoint, can that cohesion come back pretty quickly?
It better, huh? No rest for the weary, man. We're excited about it, though. It's the National Football League. The road is getting narrow, and it's good to be in the position that we're in. Certainly, we could be in a better position, but by the same token, we also could be in a worse position. And so we are where we are. We're excited about the opportunity that is this week and beyond.
Russ, you talked about turnovers. Russ has had a couple critical ones the last 2 weeks. How do you approach a player with that much experience who obviously kind of knows better in general? What's your message to a guy like that?
Much like I was talking about my motivational tactics, it's information. I'm information-based in my leadership, and so, we talk about the realities of what transpired and why and how we can minimize the potential of it occurring again. Not only as it pertains to his negative plays, but anyone's negative plays or the collective's negative plays. I'm an information guy.
Like after Wednesday's game, Russ kind of emphasized the need to respond the right way and get on the right footing going into the playoffs. How do you do that?
When?
How important is it to change the momentum? You mentioned getting the stench of the last game off. How important is it to do that in the regular season before you reach the playoffs?
As I mentioned, I think it's significant for us, and that's why we're excited about the opportunity that is this week.
If the Ravens win at 3 o'clock, do you consider resting people? How do you approach that? Do you know?
I haven't pondered that at all, to be quite honest with you. That might be a thought for later in the week, but as I mentioned, I think it's significant how we go into this tournament, and so I doubt that I'll be in that mentality that you mentioned.
Mike, when you mentioned the injuries, I don't think you mentioned Justin Fields. He was inactive the last week. Do you expect him to work back in this week?
I do.
What are the injuries for Corey and Jalen?
Just in-game wear and tear, bumps and bruises associated with play that may limit them at the early portions of the week, but not going to be significant in terms of their availability.
Jalen's been an effective runner and receiving back when he's been in the game. Just what is it about him, especially the last 2 weeks, that's kind of created that?
He's a good player. He missed, some time due to injury at the early portions of the season that probably slowed the overall trajectory of his game in 2024. But when he's available, he's significant. He's significant in the running game. He's significant in the flat passing game and in space. He's just got a nice skill set, particularly as it pertains to winning one-on-ones.
Mike, how much more is Joe Burrow using his feet? Is he kind of back to where he was a couple of years ago as far as that standpoint?
No, I don't see any change or trend since the last time we played him. He does a nice job of extending plays, buying time for guys to get open. Oftentimes people allocate 7 to defend their upfield runners, and so plays don't always unfold in a timely manner. He's got big-time mobility. He's got great field presence, and he utilizes both in an effort to make plays, particularly in weighty one-dimensional moments. Red zone, he had a touchdown against us in the red zone running up into the pocket. He did the same thing versus Cleveland. It's just typical Joe Burrow from my perspective.
Mike, is there other things in particular that you guys have to improve as far as protecting those escape lanes? Like plays that Patrick Mahomes made last week and Lamar Jackson. Are those more about the fact that you're playing these high-caliber opponents?
I think a lot has to do with the special talents that the two guys that you mentioned have, and that's why they're routinely mentioned as MVP-like candidates. But again, for us, it is the collective. It just is, man. If we're rushing 4, we got to do a good job of maintaining coverage on the back ends if plays get extended. If we rush 5 or more, we got to do a real good job of getting home and do a good job in coverage, particularly in those one-on-one circumstances that oftentimes 5 or more creates. And so for us, it's about a mix. It's about rush and coverage working together, however you slice it, and reaping the rewards of guys understanding the collective component of our operation.
On Sunday, Saturday, Wednesday, you have to wait till Sunday to know you play Saturday. You have to wait till next Sunday to find out if you play Saturday, Sunday, Monday. How do you kind of keep the routine and keep it or establish it for your guys?
It's ball for us. It's ball for everyone. I know it's great for the fans. And so from that perspective, I don't waste a lot of time pondering the possibilities. I simply wait for news and try to do the best I can to prepare regardless.
George Pickens seemed visibly frustrated at the end of the last game, just on the field. What have you seen from him, and how have you two interacted since then, as far as what you guys need from him in big moments?
Just saw him in the training room. Maybe he had a smile on his face. It was good to have him back. Certainly the game didn't unfold the way he or we would like. But as I mentioned, frustrations are a component of losing. I tend to focus my energies on constructing victory and worry less about those things. We got good people, including George. We're able to get over some of those bumps in the road that's associated with failure and keep it moving.
How much is momentum at the end of this regular season heading to the playoffs? Is there a correlation there if you want to make sure you're
in some instances it has been, in some instances it hadn't. But I think given a preference, you certainly prefer momentum.
Mike, is there a number you feel comfortable with the going into a game with Boswell? He can go X amount of yards, or does he tell that to you but pre?
Just in general, I feel good with Boz under any circumstance, but oftentimes in-game circumstance will dictate, the outer reaches of that range, and into the field, venue. There are a myriad of variables that kind of go into the equation, but just know that, I feel pretty good sending Boz out there under any circumstance.
When he's been this dominant or this perfect kicking, do you even mess with it? Do you even talk to him, say anything? You just let him do what he does?
We got a relationship, certainly, but it's not a lot of coaching required, man, when you're the success rate is what he's got going on this year. He's been a big-time asset to us, certainly.
You talked about some of the shortcomings you guys have had, turnovers, things that you guys have been good at. How do you coach this team to get back to doing the things that it's been good at outside of this past 3 games?
I coach them the exact same way that I've coached them in that regard all year. We've had that agenda all year, and largely it's been good for us. We didn't wane in terms of the agenda. The production has not been what we wanted it to be, but it doesn't mean that we change our approach to business or our values. We value protecting the ball. We value getting the ball. We're going to continue to live that life. We're going to continue to emphasize it not only in our words, but in our physical action leading up to performance. But we've done that, and it will continue.
How much do you value having players who've been part of a turnaround, like the 3-game skid you guys had last year? You win 3 games to get to the playoffs. Is that something that you value or even think about?
I think that everybody in these locker rooms, not only ours, but others, have been a part of things that you mentioned. You don't get to, perform at this level unless you've smiled in the face of adversity and overcome some things. And so I generally always proceed with that assumption. I proceed with the assumption that we all have a can-do approach, that we're all products of experiences that have put us here, and it's been a lot of success, a lot of smiling in the face of things. And so we don't waste a lot of time pondering that. We just know that it's there for individuals and for the collective.
Mike, on the interception that Russ threw against the Chiefs, it looked like maybe George broke off his route a little early. Was that the case, and how do you maybe assess the effectiveness of George's route running?
Not at all. George's route running had zero to do with that interception. George was fine last weekend or last Wednesday.
Like, you have 3 young offensive linemen that are at or are going to cross the most ball they've played in the season. How do you assess how those guys are kind of holding up to the toll of the course of the year?
Man, I've been really pleased with their performance.
There were some touchdowns in the end zone by both of those opposing teams with players wide open. You mentioned you looked at trends. Was there something, a common thread between those? Was it schematic? Was it communication-based, or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both.
Mike, how do you determine if you're going with Beanie or Cam Sutton? I know Sutton's been getting more late recently.
I think we determine divisional labor week in and week out based on a variety of variables. It's no different than the conversation that we have regarding Landon Roberts and Peyton Wilson, for example, or the tight ends. You could pick any component of play. We divvy the labor up, and we try to put guys in position to show what they're capable of and things that provide the best matchup for us relative to those that we compete against. And so the nickel position is no different than the inside linebacker position or the tight end position or the wide out position, where we play multiple people in certain spots, and particularly given certain circumstances.
Piggybacking off of Jenna's question, when it is schematic and communication in the same, it's a bit of both there, how do you go about correcting that at this stage of the season?
A lot of our issues or challenges are multi-layered and complex. It's just business in the NFL. It's chess, not checkers. And so we got to make some schematic adjustments. We got to make some divisional labor adjustments. But those are discussions that are ongoing week in and week out, even when you're successful. And so I'm not going to try to elevate that or mislead you like something is going on different. We got to put together a good plan this week. We got to do a really good job of presenting it to the guys. They got to do a real good job of absorbing it and preparing individually and collectively, and then we'll go into the stadium and play.
Mike, what does your offense need to do to kind of get back to where you were against Cincinnati the first time?
Take care of the football and stay on schedule. I think when we stay on the schedule and we take care of the football, we're a formidable group, and at times, particularly in the last several weeks, we've been spotty in those regards.
Anyone else?